Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's geography lesson. My name is Nomthandazo Malembe. This lesson is brought to you by the Northern Cape Department of Education in collaboration with Pagama Research and Development. My learners, today we are focusing on revision paper 2. We're going to focus on question 1. But before we start with our revision, I just want us to go through our lesson objectives, which means by the end of this lesson, learners, you should be able to focus on the rural settlement questions as well as your urban settlement. Then we just want to go through the exam tips so that you will be ready and well equipped for the question paper. So we're going to start with the structure of the question paper. Your question paper 2 is allocated with 150 marks and the duration of your paper is 3 hours. In that question paper, you will have 2 sections, which is your section A as well as your section B. Under your section A, you will have 2 questions. Your question 1 will be your rural and urban settlement questions. That will be 60 marks. And in the economic geography, which is your question 2, it will also be 60 marks. Then you move to your section B. Your section B is your question 3, which is the map work. Your map work is allocated with 30 marks. So altogether, they make that 150 marks. Then further breakdown of the questions, since like today we are focusing on question 1, which is your rural and your settlement questions. You will have your short objective questions. Those are your one-word questions. They will be 15 marks, and then after that you will have 3 questions that are 15 marks each. They are based on the rural or the urban settlement. So amongst those 3 questions, you will have 1 question with a paragraph question. As you move to your question 2, you will have your economic geography questions. Again, you will start with your short objective questions that will be 15 marks. And then after that, you will have your 3 questions that are 15 marks each. And amongst those 3 questions, you will have 1 paragraph question. You will then move to question 3, which is your section B. Your section B is where you will find your map work questions. And in your map work questions, there are 30 marks. To break the 30 marks, you will have your map skills as well as the calculation with 10 marks. And then map interpretation, it will be 12 marks. And your GIS question will be 8 marks. Then, looking at the examination tips. Remember, we start by reading the instructions. So once you are done reading the instructions carefully, you need to make sure that you read the questions twice before you can even answer. So as you are reading the questions, you need to underline your keywords as well as the action verb, so that you understand the question better. And then after that, remember each and every question will be based on the diagram, or it will be based on the extract as well as the picture. So make sure that you go through the diagram, you identify the features that you see in the diagram so that it can make you happy, or so that it can be able for you to answer the questions once we have identified them features. And also you need to make sure that you check the mark allocation. Why are you checking mark allocation? It's because some of the questions will not be specific on how many answers you need to give, but by looking at the marks allocation, you will be able to know how many answers you're supposed to give. For example, if the answer is saying 3 times 1, the question, then you know that you need to give 3 responses. Sometimes you lose those marks because you only wrote 1 answer instead of writing 3. Then you'll know that with your paragraph question, you need to know that you have the 4 responses. Sometimes you may not write a long paragraph, but as long as you write the 4 points, even in the point form, it's also allowed. Then we now going through our revision for today. we are focusing on question 1, paper 2, which is your segment geography. So amongst the segment geography, you can find your rural settlement and you can find your urban settlement questions. So our first question there, figure 1.1, you are now given column A and column B. So this is the easiest way. You look at the picture in column A and then you decide in column B, it's either is it a Y or is it a Z. So again, instead of reading the definition, so if you look at the picture, you are then quickly to decide at what is the answer. So you've got the two questions there. You have your 1.1.1 is the picture. It has a clue that it's a river. Then you need to check the position of that river so that you can be able to identify, is it Y, your wet point settlement, or is it Z, your dry point settlement. Then your 1.1.2, you are given a picture with a clue, there is a bridge, and then along that bridge, there are houses in either of the side. So again, Y, is it a linear defense or is it a linear fort? So again, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to work on these two questions. Remember, you write all your answers down. So the numbering, it should be correct also. So your 1.1.1, if it's Y, you write Y. Your 1.1.2, if the answer is Z, then you write Z. Then we proceed to the next questions. So your 2 minutes start now. Then we're looking there, we're moving to our third and fourth question. Again, you look at the picture and then after that, you identify, is that picture display Y, which is a defense settlement, or is Z, which is a dispersed rural settlement. Then your question 1.1.4, as you can see there, it's a picture with a lot of road as a key. So again, why is it a cross-shaped pattern or it's a star-shaped pattern? Again, I'm going to give you another 2 minutes, and then after 2 minutes, we proceed to the next questions. Right, girls and boys, you are now on your question 1.1.5 to 1.1.6. Your question 1.5, again, you are given a picture there, and there is a clue. As you can see, there is a sun and there is even. So, is that the location in the southern hemisphere, or is it the location in the northern hemisphere? Then your 1.1.6, you are given another picture. There is a key, there is a kettle, and there is a variety of vegetation. So these are the types of farming. Is that a commercial farming or a subsistence farming? So another 2 minutes, and then after 2 minutes, we proceed to our next question. Our next question is question 1.1.7 to 1.1.8. We are given a picture again. Is it Y, a man-made picture, or is it a physical, which is a natural picture? And then 1.1.8, you are given the types of pattern. Is it a dispersed or is it a nucleated? So again, another 2 minutes, then we proceed to the corrections. looking at our corrections, so the first one, it's 1.1.1, there is a river there. So you can see that the river is far away from the houses. So Y, it's a wet point settlement, and then Z, it's a dry point settlement. Looking at the position of the river, the answer is a dry point settlement. So let me explain the difference between the two. Remember, we said the wet point settlement is whereby the area doesn't have the river. So therefore, the people will build their houses next to the water source. That water source could be a dam or it could be a wind pump. So we call it a wet point settlement. Then when it comes to the dry point settlement, there is a river in that area, but the people themselves, they choose to build away from the river so that they overcome or they minimize the chances of being flooded. So as you can see the position of the river, then you see the position of the houses that it is away, and there is even the evidence of buffering. So therefore, we call it that, which is your dry point settlement. What you need to understand, wet point, there is no river, but there is water source. Dry point, there is a river, but people choose to build away from that river so that they cannot be flooded. Then your 1.1.2, we are looking there, the key, there is a bridge with the houses in the either of the side. So your Y, which is your linear defense, you need to understand from today that defense is supposed to be round. So therefore, this is the line and this is the line. So it means it's our linear fault. Hence the answer is Z. Right? I hope you are still following. So looking at our question 1.1.3. Y is a defense a settlement, and then Z is a dispersed rural settlement. Again, I said to you, defense is supposed to be on a round. As you can see that those houses are in a round shape. So it means the defense or the security is tight. So looking at Z, it says a dispersed rural settlement, which is incorrect because a dispersed settlement is supposed to be one house there, one house there, one house there. Then we call it a dispersed. Then 1.1.4, it's a Y cross-shaped a pattern or it's a star-shaped pattern. You can see that there are so many roads. They are now in a star-like. So hence the answer is Z. So I hope you are still following. So your 1.1.5, Y is located in the southern hemisphere, or Z is located in the northern hemisphere. So why are we saying it Y? Because it receives a direct sunlight, and we have that clue, which is the direction, the north. Remember, in the southern hemisphere, the north facing slope is the one that receives a direct sunlight, whereas the south facing slope is the one that is at the shadow zone. Then you will remember that in the northern hemisphere, it is vice versa. The north is the one at the shadow zone, and the south is the one that is receiving a direct sunlight. Then your 1.1.7, it says the cattle, which is the variety of vegetables. So we are given two types of farming, is the commercial farming as well as the subsistence farming. So you will remember that your commercial farming is whereby you are farming for strictly a business, and then you only focus on one crop at a time, and it is covered in a large area. So you see there is a variety of crops. These are the characteristics of the subsistence farming. Your subsistence farming, you are farming in a small plot of land and you use the variety of crops, and also you are farming for your family. Then we're moving right along to the next question. The next question is your 1.1.7. Is it a man-made feature or is it a physical feature? So our clue here, it was this one. As you can see, this is a road. So a road is built by people. That makes it to be a man-made feature. So our answer, it was Y. So should it be, this was the river. The river is a physical, then our answer was going to be Z. Then your 1.1.8, it talks about the types of petting. You understand that we have two types of petting, which is a dispersed as well as your nucleated. So here you need to understand, when we are saying the settlement is dispersed, remember it's when the settlement or the houses are far from each other. Then we say it's a dispersed. And also the dispersed petting, it also have an alternative name. Remember, if you don't want to say dispersed, you say isolated. So therefore, we're looking at this picture. These blocks, they represent the buildings and they are close to each other. So if they are close to each other, it means the petting, we say it's the nucleated. Our answer is Z. And again, if you don't want to say nucleated, you then use the word clustered. Then by now, you're supposed to have 8 marks. Then we're moving right along to our figure 1.2. Remember, figure 1.2, it's also another short objective questions. So here it says choose one term or concept for each of the following description provided. You write only the term or the concept next to the question number. Remember, you don't have to rewrite the whole statement because you're gonna waste time and you ended up not finishing your exam. So if the question says write a letter, you write a letter. If they say you write a term, you only write a term. And then again, you need to be careful of the numbering. 1.2.1, 1.2.2, 1.2.3, you write them in a sequence. So you are given the two terms in the bracket. You need to choose one to make the statement correct. A resort town or a specialized town can develop due to the occurrence of one. So again, we said you need to underline the keywords as well as the action verbs. So here we are looking at the town that is going to develop due to the occurrence of the one main physical resource. Then your second question, A, junction town or is it a gap town? Develops, again, it's developed as the major transport intersection. That's where you'll get the clue. Then your 1.2.3, where goods and services are transferred. So goods and services are transferred from one mode of transport to another. So is it a break of bulk point or is it a junction town? Then we move to the next questions, your 1.2.4 to 1.2.7. Remember, the numbering is supposed to be on a sequence. So specialized town or the central place town provides goods and services. So we are looking for that town that provides goods and services to the surrounding rural areas. Then your number 5, a natural attraction. So natural attraction lead to the development of what type of a town that will be developed because of the natural attraction. Then your 1.2.6, the Vorster, is it a central town or is it a gap town? Is located in a mountain pass. So the key as well as the action verb is that mountain pass. What type of the town will be developed because of this mountain pass? Then your 1.2.7, an industrial town or the gateway town is mainly considered with manufacturing. So the key as well as the action verb again is the manufacturing. So now that we have seen all the questions and we have discussed, this is what you should do even in the exam. Remember, you have that 3 hours. So you need to utilize your time to your full ability. And also, if you even have your accommodation, your concession, you also have an extra 45 minutes. So again, do not rush yourself. Do not make the mistake. Make sure you read the questions twice, and also you underline what does the question look for before you can even answer. So now I'm going to give you the opportunity to answer. Again, you need to be individual because now we are preparing for the final exam. So you are no longer leaning on your friend or depending on them, but you are now depending on yourself. So I have displayed 3 questions. I'm going to give you 1 minute per question, which means 3 minutes. And then after 3 minutes, we will then proceed to the next 4 questions. Thereafter, we do the corrections. With the hope that my girls and boys, you are done. So let us now answer our question 1.2.4 to question 1.2.7, which means you now have the next 4 minutes, and then after 4 minutes, we will then do the corrections. So your 4 minutes start now. Let us look at our corrections. So have your answers ready. Remember, you need to mark yourself also so that you can count how many answers you got correct and how many answers you got wrong, so that you can revise those answers that you got them wrong. So your 1.2.1, a resort town or a specialized town that develops due to the occurrence of one main physical resource. So there is a specialized town because they are only focusing on one. You will remember that the resort town is whereby the town, it has a lot of tourist attraction. So because of that one physical occurrence or the physical resource, it makes this to be a specialized town. Then secondly, a junction or a gap town develop at a major transport intersection. So where there is an intersection of the transport, we then call it a junction. That transport intersection, we're talking about the road, we're talking about the railway. So it's where there is a transport mode that meets, so it's a junction. Then your number 3, when goods and services are transferred from one mode of transport to another, remember that is a break of bulk point. One mode of transport replaces the other. Then your 1.2.4, specialized town or the central place town provides goods and services to the surrounding rural areas. So you will remember this is a definition of your central place because they provide goods and services to the rural surrounding areas. Again, in the rural areas, remember, there is no much of the goods as well as the services that are taking place. So therefore, they rely into the central place. Then 1.2.5, a natural attraction. leads into the development of a resort town. Remember, because of this natural attraction, so that town, they will be able to build hotels as well as the restaurant, because it's gonna attract a lot of people to come and visit that area. So we call it a resort town. Then again, your bridge town, remember the bridge could be your break of bulk point. Then your 1.2.6, the Vorster, is it a central town or is it a gap town? Is located in the mountain pass. Because of that mountain pass, remember your gap town, we said there is nothing happening in that town except that it is a pass through into another destination, and also the road it passes between the mountain, then we call it a gap town. Then your number 7, an industrial town or a gateway town is mainly concerned with manufacturing. So our key there was the manufacturing. Where do we manufacture a product? In the industries. So we call it an industrial town. So by now, you're supposed to have 15 marks. 8 marks from figure 1.1 and another 7 marks from figure 1.2. That makes a total of 15 marks when we are saying your short objective questions will be 15 marks. Then now we coming into figure 1.3. Your figure 1.3, it's based on the land reform. Then you need to ask yourself, what have you learned in the land reform? Remember, we have the 2 acts, which is your land restitution, your land redistribution, as well as your land tenure. So you will also be given an extract when it comes to the land reform. Remember, we said we start by reading the extract, and then after the extract, you then go through the questions so that you can see what questions you're supposed to refer to the extract. So we're going to read the extract together, and then I will also give you the opportunity for you to read the extract on your own. So it says the land reform in South Africa is failing. Ignoring the realities of the rural life plays a part. There is a widespread agreement that land reform in South Africa has failed to deliver to changes. Racial-based dislocation and land dispossession were centrally features of colonial conquest as well as apartheid rule. To address this, in 1994, the newly elected African National Congress, which is the ANC, set a target of redistributing 30% of the country's white-owned agricultural land to Black people. Persistently failing to come close to this goal, the government now hopes to reach it on show that South Africa's land reform program is misguided. It is designed for a social economic content that doesn't exist. It ignores the 3 important factors. The land has multiple uses other than production. The small rural farmers ain't poorly economic actors who are self-reliant. Family and community obligations create a financial pressures that can force small rural farmers to stop production and fall into poverty. So now, let us look at the questions. Remember, in our tips, we said you read the extract and then you go through the questions, you double check your answers, and once we have seen the questions, you need then to go back to the extract. Now, in mind, you know what are the questions that you should refer into the extract. So, looking at our question, for now, we're going to focus on the short as well as your medium questions. We ignore the long questions just for now. So your 1.3.1, you need to define the term land reform. Remember, the extract is about the land reform. So therefore, you must be able to define it so that you can get a further understanding. What is this land reform? Then second question, you need to quote 3. So you define the land reform. Remember, we said you need to be able to underline the keyword as well as the action verb so that you understand what the question is asking. So the question, which is the keyword, you need to define, which means you cannot give a one word to define what is a land reform. And then secondly, you quote 3 important factors from the extract. Again, now when you read the extract for the second time, you now read it with the understanding that you need these 3 important factors, that South Africa's land reform program is ignored. 3 times 1, meaning you give 3 responses that will give you 3 marks, because it's 1 mark each, 1 mark, which means if you only wrote 1, you will get 1 mark, then you lose 2 marks. If you only writing 2, again, you will get 2 marks and you are losing 1 mark. Where else you need to make sure that such questions, because you need to get it from the extract, you must make sure that you collect all the answers. Then 1.3.3, you provide one reason. Provide one reason why land reform is necessary in South Africa. That one answer will give you 2 marks because it says 1 times 2. So now that we have discussed the question, let us go back to the extract. Now you are reading the extract with the understanding of what are the answers you are looking in the extract. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to read the extract on your own. And then after 5 minutes, you will then be ready to answer the questions. I believe that we are done, girls and boys. Now you are ready, you are well equipped to answer these 3 questions. Remember, with these 3 questions, you get 2 marks, you get 3, which is now 5. And then answering the land reform is 7 marks. 7 marks just for 3 questions. So I'm going to give you 8 minutes to answer these 3 questions, because you still need to go back to the extract to quote the important factors. So after this, we'll then be able to do our corrections. Hoping that we are now done. So we're looking at our corrections. Our first question, we're supposed to define what is land reform. There are so many ways you can use to define what is land reform, but we are saying it's a process of redressing the injustices. Remember, the injustices, those are the disadvantages that happen. So a process of redressing the injustices of displacement. Remember, there were people who were forcefully removed in their rightful land. So the injustices of displacement and forced removal that took place during the apartheid times. So again, to define what is a land reform, we are saying it's the process of redressing, which means readdressing, or which means correcting what was done wrong during the times of apartheid. So again, if we can read together, a process of redressing the injustices of displacement and forced removal to took place during apartheid. So that is 2 marks. One might say it's whereby the land is given back to the people who were forcefully removed during the apartheid times. Or one might say it when the government is initially buying the land back to the black people who were removed during the apartheid times. Remember, we can put it in different ways, but as long as you emphasize that this is redressing the injustices that were done by the apartheid times. Then our second question, you were supposed to quote the three important factors from the extract from that South Africa's land reform program is ignored. So number one, the land has multiple uses than other production. Remember all this, you get it from the extract. Then secondly, what is left, don't forget to put the inverted commas to emphasize that you have quote them. The small rural farmers and poorly economic actors who are self-reliant. Another one. And then the third one, the family and community obligations, which creates the financial pressures that can force small rural farmers to stop production and fall into poverty. All of these, we have found them in the extract. Then our third question, you are supposed to provide one reason why land reform is necessary in South Africa, why it is important. So we're looking at the answers there. Number one, to create the self-sufficient farmers. Remember, if people can be given back the land, it means they will now be able to plant or to farm on their own. It means most of the food they will now be able to make on their own because they have now the access to the land. And also, we are looking at it will also promote the economic growth. As they are giving back that land, they will be able to use that land into their economic advantage. They will no longer be dependent into government now. And also we are looking at the legacy of apartheid, which will be predominant over the unfair distribution of land. And also we're looking at it will also help the people to access the land. Remember, as people have now access to the land, they can even build industries, or they can even build their own houses. They will not be dependent on the government. Then we now move into figure 1.4. Your figure 1.4, it says refer to the sketch below based on the urban sprawl. So again, before you can even look at the question, you read the statement. It's saying it is based on the urban sprawl. So right now you should think, what have you learned about the urban sprawl? Then secondly, you look at the picture that you are given, or the diagram, whatever diagram that you are given. We are given A there. It is pointing at the center. Then we are given B, area B. What do you see in area B? You can see there is water there. You can see there is a vegetation and there are trees. So now that we have identified these features that you see on the picture, so now it is time for us to go through the tips. You study the picture and you identify the features. We have done that. And you read the questions, then you refer to the picture again for some of the clues. And then you indicate the answers if the question is asking about two things. Maybe they can say identify area A and identify area B. So there you need to be specific. Area A is this, area B is this. So now, you have studied the picture and we have identified the features. So secondly, now we need to read the questions. And then after reading the questions, we need to go back to the pictures. So let us look at the question. You have 5 questions. So in that 5 questions, you need to define the term urban sprawl. Remember, I said by reading at the statement, what is the question or what is the diagram about? You then ask yourself, what have you learned in the urban sprawl during the teaching and learning? Then secondly, it says identify. So remember, number one, you are defining the urban sprawl. I said to you, if the question is saying defining, you cannot write one or two words because you need to fully explain what is the term that has been asked. Then secondly, you identify the land use zone area A and B respectively. Remember, I said in the tips, if the question is asking about the two things, you need to be specific. A is this land use and B is this land use. You don't just throw answers and then you expect that the marker will know which answers you are referring to. Then third question, you provide a reason why A. So provide a reason why A will most likely expand into area B. So one answer will give you 2 marks. So you have 2 marks for defining the urban sprawl, another 2 marks for identifying this land use zone area, and then another 2 marks for providing a reason why area A will be most likely to be expanded into area B. And then 1.4.4, you explain again the main function. What are you explaining? You are explaining the main function of area B regarding the expansion of area A, another 2 marks. And then lastly, your 1.4.5, you name 3 advantages of area B. So per advantage will give you 1 mark. So if you are writing only 1 advantage, again you will get 1 mark and you lose 2 marks. If you are writing 2, you will get 2 marks and then you are losing that 1 mark. So with this figure, you need to collect that 3 marks, which is 5, which is 7, which is 9, and then which is 11. You need to collect all these 11 marks. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes to work on these 5 questions. Then again, now that you have seen the questions, so I'm going to give you the opportunity to go through the diagram on your own now. You have seen the questions. Then now, with the analyzing of the picture, you will then be able to pick up the answers. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to analyze the picture on your own. And then after 3 minutes, we will then proceed to the questions. Girls and boys, I'm hoping that you are now ready to answer the questions. Remember, I'm going to give you 10 minutes to answer these 5 questions. And then after 10 minutes, we will then be able to proceed to the corrections. So your 10 minutes start now. We're looking there. Number 1, we're supposed to define what is urban sprawl because the diagram is about the urban sprawl. Remember, we are saying urban sprawl is whereby there is an uncontrollable development that is happening in the urban areas or in the cities. As people move from the rural areas to the urban, with those ones who will not find the opportunities of the job that they were looking for. So they will then settle to build their own informal settlement. Remember, they use the land that does not belong to them, and that land is not in the map of the urban area. So therefore, it is creating an uncontrollable development in the cities. As they build those informal settlements, they will then now demand to have the services. That's another uncontrollable development in the cities. Then secondly, we said identify the land use zone at A as well as at B. Remember, with such questions, you need to be specific. A is a CBD. How did we identify that A is a CBD? Because it's in the center, and we look at the building density, which is high, as well as the tall buildings. Then at B, we are saying is the green belt. Why green belt? Because we have seen there is an evidence of water, there is an evidence of trees, and there is an evidence of vegetation. So therefore, it's the green belt. Then your question 1.4.3, you provide a reason why A will most likely to expand into area B. So as you move from here in area A, you expand to this side. Remember, as you can see, that area A is already clustered or it's nucleated. So therefore, because of the overcrowding at A, one might want to expand to this side at B. And also there is a lack of service provision at A because of the overcrowding. So therefore, one might also want to expand into area A. And then beside having the overcrowding as well as the lack of services, area A is also an evidence, or it tends to be expensive. So therefore, if you are occupying a business or you are renting a flat in that area A, it means you'll be paying more because it is expensive. So therefore, you will not make a profit. Hence, one might want to expand into area B. Then we're looking at your 1.4.4. You explain the main function at B regarding the expansion of area A. So then, it is to prevent the formless or that uncontrollable development we're talking about in the expansion of the city. Remember, here there is water, which will limit people. No one can build anything in the water. And also there is those vegetation as well as the trees, which will prevent that formless or uncontrollable expansion. Then your number 5, 1.4.5, you name 3 advantages of area B. So we've already identified there is water, there is vegetation, there is trees. So what are the advantages? Number 1, it reduces the urban heat island. Remember, because of the activities that are done at A, and you're looking there, the area mostly it's paved, which attracts or which absorb the heat. And also looking at B, because of these physical or natural features, which will then reduce the urban heat island. And also it will reduce the city noise. It is clustered, it is overcrowded, therefore there is a lot of noise. And it will also control the urban sprawl. And also lastly, the aesthetic beauty. You see that area, because of the vegetation, also it will create the area to be beauty. We're looking at your question figure 1.5. Figure 1.5, it says refer to the extract below on informal settlement. Again, I said to you, read the statement, then you ask yourself, they are telling you refer to the extract, which is this one, below on informal settlement. Before you can even read, then ask yourself, what have you learned about the informal settlement? What is it? Then after you have found the answer, you then proceed to the extract. So if we can read the extract together, 8 died on the electric shock in South Africa's flooded informal settlement. After a weekend of heavy rains lashed South Africa's Western Cape, homes in flooded informal settlements with the makeshift electric wiring have become the site of multiple deaths. At least 8 people, including 4 children, died after being shocked by the electricity in the region's poor townships, where many residents precociously hooked their homes to existing power lines for electricity. Overwhelmed by rapid population growth and urban expansion. You can see here a population growth. Remember, this is the urban concept. Your urban expansion is another urban concept. So South Africa has around 11% of its population living in the informal dwellings. According to 2021 statistics, in South Africa's survey, informal settlement largely lack regular sanitation services, electricity, and running water, further increasing the vulnerability of the residents. So now, let us check what are the questions. Number one, you define the term informal settlement. Remember, the infographic is about the informal settlement. So therefore, you should be able to define it. Secondly, you name the cause of the people's death in the extract. So now you see that you need to go back when you are reading the extract with the understanding what is it that you're supposed to pick up from the extract. Then third question, how many people died? How many people died? Remember the second question, it says, name the cause of the people's death. And then third question, now how many people died of the cause identified in question 1.2.5, 1.5.2. Fourth question, you quote 3 problems in the informal settlements have. So these 3 informal, they said quote, it means again, you're going to find it in the extract. So now, when you are reading the extract for the second time, you read it with an understanding of what are the answers you are looking for. So I'm going to give you the opportunity for you to read the extract on your own, and then after that, we will then proceed to the questions. So I'm going to give you just 3 minutes to read the extract. So as you read the extract, remember, you're now aware of what are the questions, so you need to note down the answers. So your 3 minutes reading of the extract starts now. Girls and boys, I hope you are now ready to answer the questions. So you have 4 questions. I'm going to give you 8 minutes, meaning it's 2 minutes per question. And then after that, we proceed to the correction. I believe that we are all done. So again, you read the extract, going through the tips, and you read the question twice, you underlining the keywords, and now you have seen the questions. Remember, you read the extract again, looking for the answers, and we have done all of these 3. So, looking at our corrections, you are supposed to first define what is the informal settlement, because our extract is based on the informal settlement. Remember, these are the people who give themselves a land that doesn't belong to them. That land might belong to an individual or the private estate, or it might belong to the government. So we are saying it is the illegal build of settlement by the poor who cannot afford a proper housing. Again, there are so many ways we have put this. Maybe one may say it when people are building their house in an illegal land, so it also correct. Secondly, you are supposed to name the cause of the people's death. By reading the extract, we have seen that the people were the cause of death, it was because of the shock by the electricity. And then number 3, you were supposed to tell how many people died of the cause you have identified, which is the shock by electricity. So again, it's 8 people who died. Where did we get the 8? We got it by reading the extract. Then your question 1.5.4, you were supposed to quote the 3 problems of the informal settlement they have. What are those problems? So amongst is the sanitation as service, it was mentioned in the extract, and the electricity as well as the running water. All these 3 was mentioned in the extract. So by now, we need to summarize what we have learned so far. We have learned about the rural settlement types. We have looked into the land reform as well as its challenges. And we have learned about the urban sprawl. And lastly, we have learned about the informal settlement. So, to give you the preview of our next lesson, we're going to focus on paper 2 revision under question 2. So by now, you should know that question 2 is where you will have your economic geography questions. So we have come to an end of our lesson today. Hopefully you have enjoyed the lesson, but most of all, I hope you have learned something. Thank you and stay tuned for the next lesson.